So guys, before I get to the news right quick, let me just say rest in peace to BFG Strap. I heard about this later tonight. And second big rapper. Well, I don't know how big he was in the hip hop industry, but second, at least relatively well-known rapper in the past few weeks. Rest in peace to PNB Rock. Rest in peace to him. What this was over, I don't know. I didn't hear about this being a robbery or anything like that. I know that some of this stuff has been caught on video, and a lot of this stuff is kind of disrespectful. My own personal opinion, like sharing the videos, but on YouTube that stuff would get strikes anyways. But I used to do that back in the day, showing videos of guys like bleeding out, dying and stuff like that. And looking back on that, I kind of regret that. So 22 years old, I don't know if he had any kids, man, but hopefully they'll be taken care of now if he did. But here in Chicago, man, actually in one of the suburb of Oak Forest, we had an absolutely horrific situation, man. We had a triple homicide. And then the guy who committed the triple homicide barricaded himself inside of a home and then burned himself alive in the home. I mean, this was like something out of a horror movie. And this too, I believe, was caught on camera, but I'm not going to play that video here. 4 people they're saying are dead. This is being reported by ABC7 Chicago. Shout out them. In Oak Forest, after neighbors said that a man was seen shooting his family members outside his home before barricading himself inside and setting the home on fire. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office identified the victims Friday afternoon as a 22-year-old named Brianna Rodriguez, a 20-year-old named Emilio Rodriguez, a 43-year-old named Lupe Gomez, and a 44-year-old named Carlos Gomez. The man's next door neighbor's Ring camera had captured the video of the incident, and this was over on Anne Marie Lane in Oak Forest. So ABC7 viewed the video, which appeared to show a man shooting 3 people outside of the home while one runs away. The man can then be seen going back into the home and barricading himself inside, then setting the home on fire. And one of the neighbors said, "I see full involvement from the upper floor." And he said, "I knew something was immediately wrong." Neighbors said that they awoke to more than a dozen gunshots around 6:30 a.m. Oak Forest police said that they initially responded to a domestic disturbance involving a report of gunfire in the area around 7 a.m. When they arrived, police said they found 2 gunshot victims in the driveway and a third in the road south of the home. The Oak Forest police pulled the victims into their squad cars while the suspect was still on the scene. They were taken to local hospitals but later died from their injuries. Meanwhile, the suspect was still inside the home when police said that a minor was safely evacuated to police before the fire broke out. So thankfully, they were able to rescue that kid. Police initially asked residents who live in the area to shelter in place, but said that there was no longer a threat to the community at about 10 a.m. Neighbors said the family had lived in the home about 8 years, and there was some recent history of problems there, but no one imagined that it would end like this. One of the neighbors said, "A normal family just like us. The family was dealing with some stuff, and it came to that." The neighbors over there, they said, were all shocked as well. They don't understand what's happened. One neighbor said that the family had been acting strangely in recent weeks and said he heard a lot of arguing and screaming. He said police had been called to the home before. Emergency crews were on the scene all morning and went inside to investigate once the fire was put out. There they found the 4th deceased person, who is believed to be the suspect. A gun was also recovered from the scene. And this is one of several family murders that have taken place in the Chicago area. Really horrific. There was a relative that had pushed a 3-year-old into the lake about a week ago, and that young child, unfortunately, is not expected to survive. He's still critical. Neighbors, they said, are truly devastated about this and in shock over what's happened. They said, "We just asked that everybody pray for the family." Oak Forest High School canceled its homecoming parade on Friday, citing an ongoing incident in the community. After spending much of the day under a soft lockdown, students and staff soon found out that some of their own peers, old and current, were involved in the tragedy. And I can tell you, as somebody who, was a former substitute teacher in the Chicago Public High Schools, man, dealing with death in the families of students is one of the things that you're not prepared for, man. There's nothing they can teach you like in college, preparing you for, teaching, that is going to really enable you to deal with that. Like, especially when the parents of or the relatives of the students have been murdered, and you got those students in class a couple days later, and you're just watching the students sit there at the desk, just completely silent, not speaking, not saying, not doing anything, and it's like, what do you tell them? Like, you can't tell them, like, concentrate and do your work. You can't tell them that. The student's not doing nothing, just sitting there staring at the desk. You might have a test to pass out. You might have an assignment to give the kids, and it's like, you don't care what the administration or anybody says to you at that point. You're not finna tell that student to, do this test or do this work. Like, you're just not. Emotionally, it's just like, you can't even imagine having to face kids like that, man. And some of these kids wanting revenge and things like that, and trying to talk them out of it when they're already emotionally a basket case. It's just like, nobody's prepared to deal with this. But students said that one of the surviving family members is a current student and would have been on the sidelines with the school's cheerleading team. They said everybody in the school felt for that family. That's according to a sophomore over there. She said it brought everybody down. Nobody was able to really focus. All the teachers didn't really do anything in the classes because everybody was just so sad because of what happened to this family. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Neighbors said that at least one surviving family member is a student at Oak Forest High School. Two of those killed were alumni from Bremen High School District 228. That was in a written statement by them, and they said you never know what's happening in somebody's house or what somebody's going through. So, domestic situations of abuse. This is another thing, man. Like, what do you do? I mean, do you call DCFS for every little thing? Because a lot of times, that can end up making the situation even worse. But, you see kids come to school, black eyes, like, messed up from something that's happened in the home, off drugs. That the parents are on drugs, and I knew situations that one of the kids who lived like literally a block away from me, well, not even a block, probably like, this was like a few buildings down from me. His mom was a drug addict. This was a 16-year-old kid, a sophomore over at Sullivan High School. His mom was a drug addict. She was, bringing guys over to the house to have sex with them, like supporting her drug habit off that money. And, her 16-year-old son is in the house, watching these complete strangers coming over there and bang his mom while, they're all tweaking off drugs and everything. And he eventually left. He got on a train. He packed his bags. I saw him down at the bottom of the Morse L stop with 2 paper bags full of clothes, and he was asking me if I had a transfer, and he was taking the train out south to go live with his grandma because of what was going on at the crib with his mom. I mean, like, what do you even tell somebody like that, in class, or tell them to concentrate, or how do you even help them concentrate, and focus on academics? Because, I mean, this academic stuff is something that's going to affect the course of the rest of their life, and yet they've got this emotional baggage that they're carrying with them in their mind all day long in school. This stuff is like really tough, man. But anyways, the Oak Forest High School and the other District 228 schools will have counselors available to meet with any student or staff member in need of support. And anybody with information is asked to contact Detective Sergeant Ryan Burnett at the Oak Forest Police Department at 708-687-1376, or R. Burnett, that's RBURNETT at oakforest.org. The 3-year-old who was pushed into Lake Michigan by his aunt. This was an absolutely horrific incident, man. Bail was denied 2 days ago for the woman who was charged with attempted murder after allegedly pushing her 3-year-old nephew into Lake Michigan off Navy Pier, leaving him in very critical condition. And this charge could be changed to murder if the child doesn't make it. Her name is Victoria Moreno. She's 34. She's accused of pushing the boy into the water and not attempting to rescue him around 1 p.m. on Monday in the 700 block of East Grand Avenue. And she was taken into custody roughly an hour after the incident. She appeared in bond court Wednesday, where she was given a public defender. So the child vomited twice and sank before witnesses could throw in a flotation device. The defendant did nothing to help, and the boy had to be retrieved from the bottom of the lake by Chicago Fire. after the 6.5-foot fall into the water. He went into cardiac arrest, and he was rushed to Lurie Children's Hospital. The boy is now on a ventilator and is not expected to survive, according to officials. And why exactly is, I guess, a kind of a complicated medical problem. He has a swollen brain. He has bleeding in his lungs. He's having seizures. And he needed a heart infusion because his heart is depressed. So, man, the swollen brain is probably the biggest problem at this point. And he may have the boy in a medically induced coma to try to keep that down, and may have to remove pieces of his skull. But on the day of the incident, the boy's mother had left her son with his grandmother, according to a report. When the grandmother went upstairs to change, the auntie left with the child. She stole the keys to the family car and drove to the city with the boy. The family searched the Des Plaines area, but Moreno drove to the Shed Aquarium. She was not admitted, so she took the boy to Navy Pier at around 12:15 p.m. According to surveillance footage, the child was crawling under the chain that separates the walkway from the water. Moreno pulled the child back towards her while people were around. She then waited for people to leave and allowed him to crawl under the chain again. She looked around again to see if anybody was there. Then she climbed over the chain and pushed him into the water. She watched him drown several feet away near a stop sign. The relative initially told responding officers that she was only a witness to the incident, then claimed that she was holding the boy's shirt and let go because he was, quote, acting up, according to the police report and a source with knowledge of the investigation. Witnesses said that she was acting suspicious and was the only one near the water. A witness told police that she heard a splash and saw the child in the water. She ran to get a flotation device while another witness called 911. The relative didn't make an attempt to call 911 or rescue him. Moreno originally told police that she didn't know what happened and pretended that she didn't know the child. A witness said that she was walking on the pier with a friend who heard and saw the splash, but didn't see what happened before, and as soon as she saw the boy in the water, she called 911. She said he was floating on his back and just looking up at the sky. His head was the only thing that was bobbing above the water. So Moreno told officers that she brought the 3-year-old to Navy Pier to, quote, go on the rides. Charged with attempted first-degree murder and aggravated battery of a child under the age of 13. She may face additional charges if the child's condition worsens or if the child dies. The defendant is not allowed to drive because of her current medication, and she does not have a prior criminal history. She does have a history of mental illness and suffers from anxiety, depression, and insomnia. She's also being held on no bail. So you heard what they said. She is on medication, and she has a history of mental illness. Now, one thing I'll just say about these medications, I don't know if she had, stopped taking them or what happened, but when I was younger, you guys who have been on my channel for a while know that I have a congenital heart defect that causes these arrhythmias, and they thought that I was having, when these first began to manifest when I was a kid, they thought that I was having panic attacks. And so they were prescribing me all types of these, like, antidepressants. They put me on Xanax. They were putting me on all type of stuff that alters your mental state and is supposed to help you. When you miss a dose or when you go off this stuff, it creates a very dangerous situation, because the withdrawal symptoms from some of these drugs that, alter your mental state like that, basically turns a person crazy. I'm talking about like way crazier than they otherwise would have been when you're withdrawing from this drug. So what drug, they didn't say what drug they had her on. I'd be interested to know. But when they put you on like antidepressants or these some of these drugs that they use to treat various, mental conditions, psychiatric conditions, I think these drugs, in a lot of cases, do more harm than good, because of the fact that even if there's some fluctuation in the person's system which causes the drug, for example, not to be absorbed for a certain period of time, there are certain substances, even certain vitamins and minerals, that can block the absorption of these medications, which, a person is not supposed to be on or whatever, but sometimes, they may not tell you that. And there's just various things. I mean, a person can, be having diarrhea, for example, and, whatever they ingest, including this medication, can just go right through them. And so the drug won't be absorbed, or the person might miss a dose. There's bound to be fluctuations of the levels of this drug in a person's system. And if they've built up a dependency to this drug, okay, and this is a drug upon which their, psychiatric equilibrium has come to rely, that creates a situation where it's just like explosively dangerous, because now the person's, the chemicals in the person's brain are all out of whack. And the rebound effect, once the levels of that drug drop in the person's bloodstream, can be far worse than where the person started off at originally before they went on the drug. People a lot of times learn how to deal with these things, and the people around them too get used to their little idiosyncrasies that they have because of this, these mental conditions. They know who they're dealing with. They know what precautions to take, and people get used to this as the person grows up and gets older. The person's life also kind of forms around this mental condition. They may not be able to get certain jobs, but they may be able to get other jobs. They may be assigned to certain classes in school or whatever. When they go on these medications, all of those supports that are around them and all those adjustments that people have made around them kind of become relaxed. And people just start to deal with them as if there's no concern there at all. Then, like I said, when the levels of that drug fluctuate within the person's system, or when they go off the drug for whatever reason, or when the body just adjusts on its own and ceases to react to the drug the way that it was previously doing, and now the person goes into this just crazy withdrawal and crazy rebound off of this substance, the people around them are approaching them like everything's normal. Like they've ceased to put into place these safeguards and these adjustments that they previously had done. And they're kind of off guard because they're expecting the person to just be the same person that they were when the medication was at its normal levels. And so now when the person becomes this highly dangerous, erratic individual, they're not ready for it, and nobody's on guard, and something tragic happens. So I really question like the wisdom behind some of these prescriptions. I know it's a huge business. This is a huge industry. These pharmaceutical drugs, the psychiatric drugs and everything, like this is a huge money-making industry, and so there's a financial incentive to overprescribe. I've seen so much abuse of this stuff, and so much overprescription of this stuff, and so much misdiagnosis that involves these things in the school system, and this includes with myself. Like I said, I was having heart arrhythmias due to a congenital heart defect, and they were telling me that I was just having these panic attacks and I was depressed, and none of that was the case. It was literally just a electrical conductivity issue in my heart, like totally misdiagnosed. And they were putting me on all these dangerous drugs, Xanax, all this stuff that is highly addictive, and that wasn't even the problem. So you can't. Sometimes you have to use your own gut instinct instead of what these doctors are telling you, because at the end of the day, a lot of them just don't know. You got a financial incentive to name the problem as something that's going to require a high-cost drug to fix. So, that's just my little 2 cents on that, man. But hopefully this 3-year-old pulls through. Prayers and blessings to all the kids out there, man, and all the innocents. Everybody that's been killed or been, have people attempted to kill them in Chicago over this past week, man. This is your boy When You See the Report. I'm out.